Hello and welcome back to part 3 of the Scriptcase training. My name is Jamie Oates and I'm your host today. In today's training we are creating this pizza restaurant menu. So let me just show you that really quickly here. So we have here the menu where we are actually creating this platform, and we've actually just gone through and created these actual menus, applications which are available for our customers. So we still need to make here the QR menu, which we will be doing in a few moments, as well as finish one or two of the admin applications, and if we have time to also generate the security. Okay, so to continue on then with our applications, so let me close these applications which we don't need no more. Close all of these. Okay, so we have our Scriptcase, and within Scriptcase I have here now the applications which I've just created. So if you've been following through from part 1, then in the last part you'll see that I had just created the main menu, and I slowly started creating the individual applications. But then of course, being much faster, if we just copy the first application, which is here the main menu, so I copied this one, and that is then located here at the top. Okay, so I copied this menu, and then within each of these menus, all I've gone and done is added here the where TB restaurant menu category equals 8, for toppings equals 6, for pasta equals 7, and for pizzas equals 5. So if I then go ahead and run one of these menus, we'll then only have here pizza in this specific menu. Okay, so for each of these we still want to go ahead and then customize the header, so we know it's the pizza menu. So I change that to pizza menu. I can save that. If I go ahead and run that again, we'll then see that updated here within our application. Okay, so we would want to go ahead and change that for each of these. So if we come here to layout again for the pasta menu, and then here, just type in pasta, save that, and again also for the toppings menu. So I'm going to hit to layout, header and footer, and then pizza toppings, not poppings, toppings. Okay, and then we also have our drinks menu also. And I'll come here and update this also. Alright, so okay, so each of those have now been updated, so I can go ahead and close that. Now we have our main menu, which then displays all items, and then we have individual items. Okay, so we have a menu for everything, which is this one, and then menus per category. Okay, so within root here, I'm going to go ahead and create a new application. So if I go here, new application, and I'll select grid, and then here on table, I'll scroll down, I'll go then TV menu category, and here we can leave the category, ID category, and link. We don't really need category here, so we can get rid of this, and then we can call this grid QR. Underline that there, grid underscore QR, and go create. Okay, so with the grid application created and it's generating now, we can then have a quick look at what this would then look like with the default. Okay, so we have here first of all the ID category and a link, as well as here the description, or the details module. So let's remove these modules first of all that we will not be using here, and then stick with the grid application. Okay, so if I save that, then what I'm going to do is come here to fields and go new field, and I'm going to want 2 new fields, and go next. Now the first one I will call QR. I'll just do that label QR, and then the next one I'll call that menu, and the first one here will be, you can choose here from the type, the barcode QR code, and then the second one here will just be text. So I'll go create. Okay, so if I go ahead and run this now, we're going to see that we have those 2 new fields added here, QR and menu, and we still have these here. So what I'm going to do first of all is come here to edit fields, and I'm going to hide here the link and ID category. so that we're left with the QR and menu icon, well, menu items which we just added a few moments ago. Okay, so I'll come here to events and on record. So now I'm going to first of all indicate that we want to target a field value, a field variable, and that would be QR. And that is then going to equal the link that we have available within our page. Okay, so we can see here that link is actually a reserved word. So, excuse me, ideally we would go ahead and change this in the database from a reserved word to something else. But I'm going to go ahead and just leave it as it is for now. And then we need to then change our category, and we're going to add the redirects. So if I go ahead and run this now, we'll see that QR will now generate a QR code, which we will customize in a few moments. And that is then taken from the URL, which we have here. So we come here to edit fields. We can see there the link field, which if you remember, I'll show that again, is then the URL that we have then here. So that is then the URL of the pizza menu, the main menu, the pasta menu, the drinks menu, and so forth. Okay, so we can add then further menu items to this, such as the toppings menu, which is in here, as well as maybe even desserts menu. Okay, so then on record, we want to still customize this so that our items work nicely. So what I'm going to do then is, if I go if, and we need our open close brackets, and then I'm just going to go ahead and start like so. And if I come back up here, and then we want to first of all have our field and its ID category. So if ID category equals 5, then what I'm going to do is below this here, excuse me, type in menu. We target first of all the menu field, and there for the menu I'm going to say this is then the pizzas. Okay, and we close that off. And then I'm also going to use the Scriptcase macro sc_link, and here then we can then define our link that will be used. So we want first of all menu, comma, grid, underscore menu, and it's pizzas. Okay, comma, add another comma, and then we can add our first title, pizza menu. Okay, comma again, and then we can add here now our underscore blank. Let's add another comma and one more to finish that off. Okay, so we have here first of all our ID category equals 5 pizzas. Let's just go ahead and run that really quickly. And what I want to do is make sure that we have here the grid menu pizzas is correct. Okay, so we now have this linked here. And if I go ahead and open that new tab, it says blocked. Okay, so I click it, that it opens, there we go, and we have then our pizza menu. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and apply that to each of those. And let's go first of all, just copy this, paste it, paste it, paste it, and we paste it again, and then we say 5, 6, 7, 8, and we can say 9, and say for 9 we can say desserts, which we haven't added yet, so we need to add that one. Drinks, we have then 7, which is pasta, and then pizzas, this one is then toppings, pizza toppings. Okay, and then we just need to change here, pizza toppings. And we go down here, we have then here, not too far then, here we then have our pasta menu. Okay, and here, drinks menu, and then the last one, desserts. Okay, so if I go ahead and run that now, we can then see within our grid application that we now have the menu items as well as the link. Okay, so let me hide that field again. All right. And then we want to come here to toolbar, and we remove everything here from the toolbar first of all. Okay, and we can then also come to the layout and settings, and we're going to change here to the logo header, and the theme, we're going to use our restaurant theme. We save that. Okay, and then we can come back to header and footer, and we can apply here our main logo. General images, add that. Okay, and then we can just type in here the name of our pizza house or pizza restaurant in this case. And we can run that. And there we have a new layout here. Okay, so a few more things that we want to do. We want to increase the size of the QR code and realign things, okay, so that this then looks a little more like the original application that we had actually created. So first of all, if we come up here to grid columns, settings, okay, and what I'm going to do then is type in here, first of all, excuse me, if we return first of all to grid module, come here to grid, and we're going to change the orientation to slide, okay, and then with slide, the pagination, let's change that to total, and then if we save that, and then here within the settings, we'll now have the option to define how many columns per page we want, which we would generally not have. And we will also want to add here the vertical alignment to top. Okay, so if I go ahead and run that again now, we'll see that we'll have a slightly different layout than what we have here. And there we are. So we have the QR code menu. Okay. And then what we want to do now is hide these header menus. So if we come back to Scriptcase and come here to blocks, and then we can change here the display. And I'm going to place them to the top as well. Well, but leave them as the other side. Yeah, remove the display. And if I run that again now, we'll now have the QR code and the pizza icon individually. Okay. And then we just can make some slight changes here to the layout. So we come here to edit fields again. And we can define here that everything is then displayed in the center. Okay. So that will then center our items here. And then we still want to make some changes here to the QR code. So in here, the QR code, we can increase here the image size. So if I go say 126 by 126 and run that again, we'll see that we then have much larger QR codes in here. And then for the pizzas here, what we can do is then come back here to say the menu field. And here we can then change the font, how we want it to look. So we want first of all font size of 16, so increase the font size. I'm going to change the font color also. And so if I give that then hash FF and 000, we have it there already saved. And then we want to change here the alignment so it's in the center. And then go ahead and run that again. If we want to actually enable bold text there also, so bold the text also. Okay. And then we can go ahead and run that. And there we have our text. Much better. I refresh the page. We should have our items here in a much better position. Okay, one more thing I want to add here, some margin here to the QR code. So here on QR, if I come here and add a margin of 10, go ahead and run that again. And that will then give us a bit more space around those QR codes. And then we also have the link, which then takes us to the menu also. So we can read scan this then with our phone, and you will see then that this then opens up the relevant menu. Of course, indicating that, well, noting that this is then also locally. Like you see here, the address is local. So online, then URLs would have to be updated accordingly. Okay, so we can apply further styling and so forth, which is then all done within the application themes here. So we had a quick look at that previously. And then what we're going to do is then we're going to continue on with the other applications which we still have to create. Okay, so we still have here the grid QR which we just created now. If I check here in admin, we have here our initial admin applications. We have now all of our menu applications. We still need to create here our reservations. So let's start here by creating, instead of the admin reservations, we're going to jump here to the user reservations or the customer reservations. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create a new application here. So if we create a new application, and choose the grid application. And I'm going to paste in here custom MySQL statement, which is then joining the table customers as well as the table reservations together and presenting us the relevant information. So I'm going to call this one grid underscore customer, and there we have reservations. Okay, and then I'm going to stop the application from running after creation and just click create. Okay, so within this grid application, we want to first of all disable. We can leave the search there if you want to. I'm going to disable it for the time being. So if I go ahead and just disable those and just leave it like so. So if I come here to edit fields first of all, and we can then start defining our stage here that we have. So the ID reservation will go. The ID stage will remain here. So let's drag all of these up. The customer name. So I want stage info here at the top. The ID reservation, we want that. The reservation date, the reservation time, the number of hours, the reservation end time. And then we also want to have here the system date time. And then, okay, if we save that, we can then define here the positions that we want all of these. So I want these last ones here, the people, to also be centered, and also to be centered here. And then we can position these here to the left. Okay, so if I go ahead and run that, and I need a customer ID here for the MySQL. I'm just going to enter 1, and then I'm going to have the relevant data according to that customer. Okay, so of course we need to add the logo and so forth, so I'm not going to add that in this form. We're going to carry in this grid application or continue with that. We've done that in the last 2 videos, so I will skip that out in this video so we can actually finish this up. So I'm going to go straight away here to on record, and in on record I'm going to type in here if, and open up, close our brackets, and then I'm going to say here if r.id stage, and if that equals 2, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the the Scriptcase macro sc underscore field and style, and within this then we can then define a style for the field. So here I'm going to say the field s.stage underscore info, okay, and comma that. Then we can define the color that we want. So here I'm going to say green, and comma again, open, and here we can then also define the text color that we want. Okay, and then we need to open up again for a variable we don't need, and then we have here, sorry, bold. Okay, so now if I go ahead and copy that, I'm just going to go ahead, sorry, copy that and paste that, and then here I'm just going to change the stage to 1, and the color here I'm going to change to yellow. Okay, so if I go ahead and run that now, we'll now have the field stage colored. Okay, so now we have that a little more in our face and can identify it right away. Okay, so we have then the fields which we need to define here. So we have here, first of all, the reservation ID. We have displayed the number of hours, the total amount of people, and so forth. Okay, so that looks quite simple. And as I said, the only things we need to really change there are then the logo and so forth. So let me come here, first of all, and just set this to top. And then we have the layout, which then we can apply the logo. So as I said, I'm not going to continue with that. And I think this form is pretty much complete. So now this does need a form. So if I go ahead and go new application, and then I'm going to go ahead and create a form. And here I'm going to call this the Reservations Form. Okay, and change the title here though to Reservations underscore customer. Okay, and if I go create, okay, so we have now the customer reservation form as well as the grid ready. And we can then also link the two of those together. Okay, so what I'm going to do then in customer reservations, if we go ahead and run that again, we can link that straight away. So enter then the customer ID 1. And we have here then the ID reservation. We can use this field here, ID reservation. So if I come here to application links, and I will create a new link, and I will use a field link. We want the reservation ID, go next. And then here, reservations customer. We can go next here and link the two fields, confirm that. We can open in the same window, or I'm going to stick with the modal window as we had with others. What I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the height and say the width a little. Save that. And then run. Okay, so I'll enter the customer ID, and now within our grid, I can click on this field, and it will open the relevant form for us, and we can then actually, the customer can then go ahead and edit any details that we want them to edit within the development of this. Okay, so before I go ahead with anything else, I'm going to go ahead and close both of these, and I'm going to copy here the customer reservations. Grid reservations, save that. And then I'm going to go ahead and, well, first let's create here also the form. So I'll copy the form, form reservations. Okay, and both of these, I'm going to move these into, so let me add here the description, admin form, yes, and here for grid reservations, also add in here admin form, and here we can say customer. Okay. Right, so then these values, this description values, will be taken by the security applications and then also indicated in the back end. So it'll be much easier to manage these when you come to manage the applications in the back end. So as I said, I want to now grab both of these, the form reservations and grid reservations, and I'm going to move them from here into the admin folder reservations. So, okay. And now we're left with these two applications here. So, okay, so for the reservations, for the customer reservations, we can go ahead now and customize the form a little more. Maybe we should have done it before we copied it, but I think it's fine for the time being. So I come here at ID reservation, system time, we don't need this, but we do want to adjust this so it inserts then the date time of insertion. Okay, so I'm going to add that, and then what I'll do is I'll also add that date time of update. Okay, so that will then just update for the last time it was displayed. So here I have then the stage, so I will then adjust that. I'm going to move that to the top of the form. We have then here the customer, so we take that up here, customer, a reservation date, reservation time, number of hours, and the reservation end time we don't need here, none people. Okay, so I'll leave those. Now the ID stage, let's change that to a radio. The customer ID is a select field, date, time, integer, okay, so we can leave those. And then what we want to do then is access first of all here the events, and on application init, we are going to start this application new. Okay, so we use here the macro sc application config, and with that then we specify the form, so form tb reservations underscore customer started new. Okay, so now if I run this, this will then only display the form as a new form instead of as an edit form. Okay. Okay, so then on validate, if we then select here in the events on validate, we can then specify some code here again, and here we're going to say for the calculation reservation of end time. Okay, so we're taking here the value of number of hours, which is here the field, number of hours, which is then going to specify the reservation end time, using PHP date, the value, and then increasing the hours to the end time that will then be for the reservation. Okay, so then on after insert, we also need to add here. So I'm going to come in on after insert, and then what I'm going to start off with is first of all our variables. And we have here first of all the reservation date, and tying that to the field reservation date here, reservation time, and then the reservation people being people here. And then with that, we are going to go ahead and check a record. So I'll paste that there. We can then check the record. So here we're checking the customers table and sec users table for the customer ID where the user login is validated. Okay, so then what we do is then grab the customer name and the customer email. And then with that, which I have commented out in my other application, so I'll leave a comment commented out here also, is then the email sending. Okay, so what we're doing then is here at the end of this, when the customer adds a reservation, this is then emailed. So what we need to do is then remove here the comment, and then we can edit the fields accordingly. At the end here, we can see here that we have a checkup. So if it's sent, okay, the email is then sent to. Otherwise, you have a problem with your email. Okay, so it's important here to change the parameters for the email server that you will be using, as well as then here you can change the subject to how you want it, as well as your message. Okay, so if I go ahead and save that, that is then our reservation form pretty much ready. So we need to check, first of all, change here the fields. So if I come here to, so not layout, but fields, close that again. And then we had here defined a radio. So I'll come here to stage and automatic, create a select, and we have our stages defined in our database. So I'll select TB stages, and then we have stage info displayed. Okay, so we won't use a title. We will, however, choose a connection. Now let's save that. And then at the top here, I will also indicate to use a switch. So if I run that now, active status will be displayed as a radio button with a nice switch option. Okay, so we can also define which initial value we have. So we say initial value type is defined, and then we can define the initial value, or we can actually specify it elsewhere if that's what we wanted to do. Okay, so then for the customer ID, we want to then specify here the customer. So we have a select field, automatic. So if we come here to create select, and here we can select the TB customers and then the customer name. Okay, and once that's then selected, so let's remove the order by, and there we will go where ID underscore customer equals, and then we're adding then the variable, which is then defined on open var underscore customer underscore ID, and there I will use the title and also choose the connection. So I'll save that. Okay, and if we check here in our SQL, we could then also add here, or we don't have it actually added here. It's just here in the select field. So when the customer logs in and they're accessing here the customer reservations, because here we actually request it. Okay, so here customer reservations, here var customer ID, and then that will then be joined with this option here. So if I go run here now, we will then have the customer ID, which is then 1, and we will then have the customer details here then displayed. Okay, so we could remove here then the title really. So I'll come back here to customer ID, and let's remove there the title. It's really not needed. And then we can specify the reservation date, time. So I come here, specify a new date in the future, of course, the time, 2200 hours, and then we have, so we may want to add a time picker there. So let's go ahead and do that. Reservation time, and there we can actually add here a time picker and save that. We don't really need the seconds either, so let's just go hours and minutes and then run that again. And we can even change here the position of the watermark for that. So let's run that. And then we can see here now, okay, we have here the date on the right hand side. So we can change that here from right to below or watermark. So if I go watermark, and then that will be displayed within the field. Okay, so ID 1. And then we have here hours and minutes. So we want to apply the same here with the date. So I come here to reservation date. And then here we have the option to display date as watermark. Run that again. And there we now have our fields ready. So here the stage, let's go ahead and make an adjustment there also. Because then on the stage we can actually change those columns to 3 columns. And change the alignment of the form. So here we have then our values. And we have here the columns. So I'll select 3 columns. Save that. And then I'll come here to layout, blocks. And then move this to above. And run that again. And then we'll see we have a much nicer layout for our form. And then the only thing we need to do is enable the 100% field values. So that is here in settings, input 100% width, run that again. And there we have our form completed, again without the logos and so forth. So we just need to add those. And I think you should be good in how to add those now. Okay, so there we go. So that's then complete. And we can then carry on and adjust then the admin pages. Okay, so for the admin reservation pages, we have here the admin pages, and we still need to then come in here and create, well, adjust first of all these two. The reservation form reservations is pretty much identical to the other one we just created. So you can follow that along if you like. For the grid reservations, we do have a few slight changes, which is where ideally more or less positioning. So for instance, here we have the stage info on the right hand side. We then also have then the customer name just defined in here. So we place the customer name here, and then we can see all of the relevant details of the reservation. So if I change here reservation just to ID, that'll do. Okay, so if I run that now, we now have the customer ID there still, so we need to remove that. So come here to SQL, and we can just remove here the where and go run again, and we will then have a complete grid application with the same elements as the previous one. So we still have our link, which we have here, so we will want to update that. So if I come here to application links and then select here link, if you remember, we link that to the customer reservations, and we have here then the form reservations, which we want to now link that to. So if I go then form reservations next, and then we have then the reservation ID, confirm that, and that is then also linked to the correct form. So then go ahead and run that again. We then have our complete admin form there. So there are a few elements that we need to add here still, which it would then be 2 buttons. So we still have an application to create, which is then the form confirmations. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new application for that. And select the form. And then here for the table, we have then here the menu, or the table confirmations. Okay, I'm not going to run it straight away. I'm just going to click create. Okay, and then here we can then edit the fields, and here hide the ID confirmation. We want here the reservation first. Let's move that to the top here. We have then the stage, reservation stage. And then we also have, ouch, sorry about that. So just save the reservation to the top, reservation stage. And here the admin stage. Okay, so I will remove the reservation here, admin stage, and the confirmation date. Okay, so if I save that, we can first of all come here to events and application layout. And again, what we will be doing is using the Scriptcase macro, sc application conf, and here targeting here the form TB confirmations, which is what we're using, and starting it as new. Okay, and then on after insert, we again want to here define a script. I'm going to go ahead and copy the main section first of all, Okay, and then we can actually see what's going on here. Okay, so the first thing we're doing is we're going to update the reservations table with the current new stage. Okay, so we have here the field admin reservation stage, which is then what we're targeting here, as well as then the reservation ID. So we're going to update that straight away with the new administration stage that's been defined by the admin. After that, we then come down here and we have, if the admin reservation stage is 2, then we are going to go ahead and grab the reservation details, as well as here the customer details. Okay, so this first one, we're joining the reservations table and the stages table together, grabbing the reservation date, the time, the amount of people, the customer ID, as well as the stage. And then from the customers table, we're grabbing customers, as well as verifying that with the sec users table. We are grabbing the customer name and customer email address. Okay, and then after that, we go ahead and we then complete our entire process. Let me copy that correctly again and paste. Okay, so then we have our email set up, which then, if successful, we've grabbed all the information, then we can go ahead and send the customer an email and let them know that yes, their order. So here, hello customer, your table is reserved for this date and time with X amount of people. Okay, so that is then already there to go. You just need to, again, remove here the commenting, and then we can go ahead and use the email sending for this also. Again, ideally it's online, and then you can go ahead and use that. So let me go ahead and run this first of all now, and we can have a quick look at what stage we're at, because I think we still have to adjust the fields here. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that quickly. We have here, first of all, the ID reservation. And for the ID reservation, we want to add here, first of all, a number autocomplete. And what we want to do then is then add a custom select here. So I'm going to paste that there. And then here we are grabbing, first of all, from the reservations and customers table, the following fields up here, concatenating a few of it to present different information at stage 1. Okay, so I go ahead and save that. We then also have the customer reservation. Okay, so here again, we need to change the field to a select field. So we have then here the select. I'll paste that there. And again, we are just grabbing from the reservations table and stages table, depending on the ID reservation, and then joining that information for visualization here. So if I go ahead and save that, we have then finally the admin reservation, which is then basic, again, grabbing what we first need to change here to a select field, select, and then we can define here our SQL select, which is, we are selecting here the table stages, and where it is stage 2, all in stage 3. Okay, so we need to select, choose a connection again. We can save that, and now here the confirmation date. Let's go ahead and again add here the date position as a watermark, and we don't need to add the hours, minutes, and everything here. So let's just add the day and month, for instance. So if I go run, we then have our new fields, and we just need to make adjustments here for the layout. So again, layout blocks, move that to above, and then I'm going to set here in settings the vertical alignment to top and 100% width. Run that again, and our form is then complete. Okay, so that is now ready to be linked then together with our grid application here for the admin reservations. Okay, so here for the grid application reservations here, we can then come and add now our 2 buttons. So the first button I want to add is, first of all, a link button, and I'm going to call this one button reserve. And click create. And then now we can select here maybe a font or some icon, let's say a calendar. Now I'm going to change the style to the Google style and call this reservation. Reservations, okay, and then we can link that to here our form reservations. Go next. No value, confirm. And then we can open that in modal. Again, I would define here a width and a height. And save that. Okay, and then I want to add another button. Again, another link. And this time I'm going to call this one button confirm. Click create. And again, I will change the styling here, this time to the PayPal. So I find it, of course. PayPal, there we go. And add here a calendar again with, say here, a check mark. Okay, so confirmation, or just confirm. And then we can link that also now to the form we just created here, form confirmations, create. And we want here a fixed value. Oh, we don't actually want any value here, so confirm that. And then we can go ahead and run that application. Okay, so then we have now our reservations button. Okay, we need to generate those applications. So I come here to the project menu, generate source code, generate the outdated applications. And then I can come here and refresh the grid application. Come into reservations. And we now have our reservations form. And we also have the confirmation form. So the confirmation form, we can set that also then to modal or edit. So I come here back to grid reservations. We can then make adjustments to the link. So grid button reservations. The link is here. Just go next. Okay, I need to select here the form reservations. Then value confirm. Modal. Okay, save that. And then that was actually for the confirmation. So we have here the confirmations. So change here the properties. Select modal with 650, height 800. And I save that. And run the grid again. And now the confirm will also open in a modal window like so. And of course we're going to adjust the height of this window so it fits much better. As well as add the logos to the forms and grid applications and so forth. Okay, so the last thing we had to do is actually create the security. So I'm really quickly going to create security for the applications, and then we'll be right back to customize the login page real quickly before we finish this video. Okay, so all the security has now been generated. As you'll see, I've got now the security applications here, and during which I've created a new sample project here. So basically I just saved this library here, and then what I've gone and done is I've edited here the login page. So if I come here to the login folder and then view here the login 03, you'll see that here I've added here the pizza house, I've updated here the image, as well as added links to the menu items here, which is just here. So view our main menu, as well as view the QR code menu from the front dashboard. So I go ahead, I can save that, and then within the external library I've also uploaded the BG image, and then running now the login page. If I run that, we now have then the Pizza House login page all ready to go. The only thing that's then really needed to do is add all of the menu items into the menu, which, as you may have seen if in the first video, is I had to actually use a tree menu here, because I thought it would be a little nicer to use, as well as the custom icons and everything. It turns out quite nice. Okay, so that's it for today's video, today's training. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I hope to see you again soon in the next one. Thank you very much for watching.